North Dakota State started 2018 right where they left off.
And there goes Bruce.
Powered by Bruce Anderson's big day on the ground, NDSU sent the Cal Poly Mustangs and their triple option offense to pasture. Now a new face comes to the Fargo Dome, North Alabama. A longtime Division II power, the upstart Lions are 2-0 in their young FCS journey, with the hopes to upset the standard in the division. The Bison are hoping to tame the Cats and keep marching towards their ultimate goal. It's North Dakota State and North Alabama, and it starts now.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Hello and welcome into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Alex Egan alongside Beth Hool, and we are getting set for what feels like an eternity. We've taken a week off from the opening week, and now we're back to playing football for 10 straight weeks for the Bison.
We're in it for the long haul. I dyed the hair darker. I'm getting serious. We're ready to go. We mean business. We're locked and loaded, hopefully through January.
Hopefully through January. We are still talking about Bison football with the occasional off Saturday in that first round of the FCS playoffs. That would be nice. The team that the Bison are facing today, they have already played 2 games. They've all played them all on the road. It is North Alabama. It's a team that the Bison aren't very familiar with. We'll delve into that more as we go along here in the pregame show. But for right now, let's get out to the Fargo Dome where the action will be taking place. Ryan Gellner standing by. Ryan, happy football Saturday to you.
Yeah, happy football Saturday to you as well, Alex, and hello to Beth as well. Yeah, like you said, it's North Alabama today, a team the Bison, well, they don't know a heck of a lot about, but they're certainly learning about them. North Alabama, an absolute D2 powerhouse through the years. They're making the transition to Division I, and so far they've checked every box. They've won the game they weren't supposed to win, a 34-30 win over Southern Utah. Then they won a rivalry game, 25-20 over Alabama A&M. And so they're 2 for 2 in football games in their transition year. But today, guys, is the big test as they take on North Dakota State. Both of those games, I should say, were fourth quarter comebacks. So North Dakota State going to need 4 quarters of football today. Will they need that to put Alabama away? We will see. Dual threat quarterback Christian Lopez. That's the name that you guys will talk quite a bit about, and he is good. He gets it done with his feet. He gets it done with his arm. He threw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns against Southern Utah, and then rushed for over 100 yards, added another touchdown. So he can do it both ways. North Dakota State does not want to get Christian Lopez out of the pocket. For North Dakota State, they spent the week working on themselves, really working hard on their passing game offensively and defending the pass defensively. One of the guys they want to get going is number 9, Marquise Bridges. He's a little bit untested at corner. They'll see if he gets tested today and how he responds. But the lights are on this week, guys. It should be a good football game for a while. We'll see what North Alabama brings to the table.
Thank you very much, Ryan. A good football game for a while. I think that's what a lot of Bison fans are thinking it'll be, too, that for a while it will be a good football game for North Dakota State going up against North Alabama. Ryan talked a little bit about the Bison working on themselves this bye week, this open week that they had after playing 1 game.
Yeah, the Bison are incredibly good coming out of a bye week. They have outstanding numbers off of that bye week. This is a little bit of an anomaly here because it was so early, but I'm still expecting that same domination coming out of this bye week for the Bison. A big part of that was getting some of these younger guys a little bit more comfortable, continuing to get them to be excited. Coach Kleiman talked a little bit about being concerned that 1 week off would maybe bring up some of those nerves again. Maybe some of that rust was built back up quickly here on them. So making sure those things don't come into play and help North Alabama.
You mentioned NDSU's success after an open week. After they won the national title game, because they had a week off in between the semifinal and the national title game over James Madison, NDSU has won 27 straight games after an open week, and that is an impressive number, and it just shows you how good the Bison are at preparing for teams, at being ready for teams, and at taking those open weeks seriously. We got a chance to catch up with some of the guys on defense. Now, it's not easy to go from an option offense to playing what you're going to see more conventional style offense that North Alabama brings in. So we got a chance to talk to the guys this week on the defensive side for the Bison and hear what they said about this open week.
Yeah, it was very valuable. I know first and foremost just to get our legs back. I know we've had a long off season and a fall camp, so just getting that back and also just resetting our minds into getting into a more passing, conventional type offense to go against.
Well, last week we practiced 4 days, and we were back to our, too high safety defense, our 4-3 look, and it was good for us. We were able to spend a little bit of time just defending traditional football or what we see, more typical, what we see on Saturdays. But then we also got a chance to get a little bit of a head start on North Alabama as well.
I think a big part about preparing for this North Alabama game is they can get some other guys in as well. They can get some guys getting comfortable with that conventional formation that the Bison defense likes to run. Two of the guys that Chris Kleiman talked about this week that he was really pleased with in that Cal Poly game, Spencer Wagee, Logan McCormick. Two guys he said played like they were playing in the national championship week 1 against Cal Poly, and they were going against those #1 offense for Cal Poly. He said they know they're playing behind seniors, but they're giving it their best shot. They're good football players, and they're expecting to try and get them as many looks as possible to reward that hard work and that dedication.
I thought it was Wagee that had the 4th down stop there on Cal Poly, deep in Bison territory after a turnover, no less. So this Bison defense.
Chris Kleiman called that the play of the game.
Absolutely. It was a very big play for this Bison defense to not give any momentum to Cal Poly and really usher them out of the Fargo Dome quickly in that. We are going to move right along here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. We've got some fun stuff planned for you, including another Whisper Challenge. This one is hilarious, by the way.
This is the best one. Stick around.
Yeah, I don't want to oversell it, but we got plenty more to come here as we get set for North Dakota State and North Alabama here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Welcome back inside the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. We're hoping to show you North Alabama as they were getting off the bus there to come into the There they are, into the Fargo Dome. The Lions, transitioning D2 into FCS. They are FCS independents this year before they join the Big South Conference in 2019. Something that Bison fans know a little bit about the transition from Division II to Division I.
Yeah.
North Alabama, very, very good Division II team.
Yeah, our producer in back, Cameron, is from Alabama, and he talked to us a little bit about North Alabama and how just dominant they were in Division II, and really painted a picture for us in that regard. Really cool to hear about it from somebody from Alabama about what this program meant to that area. And so, yeah, they're talented. They're a good football team. They're going through a transition. They're picking up new guys. They're adding guys. They got to pick up scholarships. So this is a program only on the rise. They've had 2 really big wins that have to have given them a lot of confidence, but it's a very different scenario coming into the Fargo Dome. It's the Big Sky defending champions is very different from NDSU.
We won't take away from what North Alabama did, going on the road, beating a Southern Utah team that is defending Big Sky champions. That was a very impressive win, especially for your first game at the FCS level. They've played all their games on the road. They haven't played a home game yet this year, so I can't imagine what their fans like back in Florence, what's going on there.
And the grit of comeback wins.
Yes, and to be able to
fight
do that,
in tooth and nail, and that they already have that unity in their team. You can't teach that.
Absolutely. Let's learn a little bit more about the Lions. We catch up with Ryan Gellner and the voice of the Lions back at the Dome.
We will try and get Ryan.
Ryan, that was a flattering photo of Ryan there.
He's going to kill us.
Excuse our technical difficulties there, as we will try to get that interview ready for you. But the Lions, a couple of the guys that we wanted to mention. We'll talk about Christian Lopez, the quarterback. He's a junior college transfer. We'll mention him in just a little bit. We'll go into a little bit more depth on him. But he's got a couple receivers that he likes to throw to that through the first couple games have been very effective, and they're young. They're all redshirt freshmen. I'm talking about Dexter Boykin, Jacoby Bird, and Andre Little. These are guys' names that if North Alabama's offense gets rolling, you're going to hear their names called today.
Yeah, they had some outstanding plays. I especially watched that Southern Utah game because that's a team that I know a little bit about. from covering the Big Sky a little bit. And so it's a team that I was familiar with, and you saw these young guys, they're just fearless.
Yeah.
They're going up, they're getting the ball, they're making plays, and that's what North Alabama needs right now. They need that fearlessness because they're coming in to an incredibly hostile territory this weekend, and they're going to need a little bit of that. They're going to need a little bit of that swagger, if you will.
So the schedule for North Alabama kind of shakes out a little weird. They're playing, since they are transitioning, they're playing all their road games against FCS opponents. They're playing all their home games against Division II opponents. So you get to see that their schedule, Southern Utah, Alabama A&M, and North Dakota State, all on the road to start off, and then they'll come back and play some more familiar faces to North Alabama fans that play Azusa Pacific, West Florida, Mississippi College, teams from the area that you would typically see with a Division II team. I believe we have Gelner and the voice of the Lions. Let's see if we can get that one.
Play voice for North Alabama, and he joins us now. And Benjamin, in a year of transition, let's first talk about the hotbed of football that is Alabama. You've won over the last 28 years, I read 72% of your football games, which is unbelievable, but Alabama gets all the attention. It hurts, but is it such a bad thing?
It's not a terrible thing. Football is king in the state of Alabama. We'll always compete with Alabama for attention, but what we like is our fan base. They're Alabama fans, they're Auburn fans, they're Tennessee fans, but they can all come together and pull for the University of North Alabama.
Years of success at Division II, now making the move to Division I. In your eyes, working with the university, what is the biggest challenge, or what has been the biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge is it's just the new competition. It's taking that next step forward. We feel like across the board in every sport, we've been a top-tier Division II team, and now that we're gearing up for the Division I era, it's just taking that next step forward with the tougher competition.
Christian Lopez, the offense runs through him. He's the quarterback. Not only can he throw it, he can run it as well, and seems to move the chains with his feet. Dangerous when he's outside. Talk to us a little bit about his game.
He's just a gamer. He, like you said, he can make plays with his feet. He keeps plays alive. He plays with a lot of poise. Now, he didn't come to UNA until July, so he did not go through spring practice or anything. Really was not named the starter until game week of week 1, and he's just blown us away with the way he controls the offense. And he's playing with 4 redshirt freshman wide receivers out there, and they seem to be like they've been playing together for years. Just great communication, takes leadership of the team, just a great athlete and competitor.
Enter North Dakota State, enter the Fargo Dome. First time in a dome in a long time. This place gets loud. There's a lot of side effects, fireworks, things like that. What's the big concern for your team, either with North Dakota State or playing in this building?
All of the above, not getting caught up in the atmosphere. I mean, we get good crowds at North Alabama. We don't get the numbers that you guys get here, expecting 18,000, I believe. So that's the biggest thing. Just worry about what's going to happen on the field. Don't get caught up in the extracurriculars outside.
Benjamin, we hope you enjoyed your short time in Fargo and appreciate you joining us here.
Yes, sir. It's been great.
Guys, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Ryan. And to Benjamin there, appreciate the time. Let's go out back to the Fargo Dome. We're going to go outside the Fargo Dome where there's plenty of excitement going on. Mike Markin joins us with this tailgate report. Mike?
All right, thanks. We've got more trivia coming for you here at the tailgate section. And before we get to trivia, I just want to show you the Bison fans of tomorrow. Actually, they're today, but when they grow up, they'll be there tomorrow. We want to show them. All right. Great-looking kids. All right. Bison fans of today are with me. Your name?
Melissa.
Melissa, you're going to go first. Did I tell you that no one has gotten this wrong yet since we started this?
You did, and that sounds like a lot of pressure.
Okay, but it isn't. Here we go. All right. First question. In 2016, NDSU beat 13th ranked Iowa for a 6th win over an FBS team since 2010. The score was 23-21. Did they win on a last-second field goal of 37 yards, or did they win on a last-second field goal block? And you can ask others.
I'm going to go with A.
A would be a last-second 37-yard field goal?
Yes, sir.
Time to cheer, everybody. She got it right. Way to go, Melissa, and you win a $50 gift card to the True Blue Social Club. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. My next contestant, your name?
Jamie.
See how easy that was? Did you think that was easy?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Here's the question. In 2013, NDSU ran for 215 yards in beating Kansas State 24-21. How much money did NDSU get for playing the Wildcats? Was it $350,000 or was it $100,000 for tackling dummies and new uniforms?
$350,000. A.
$350,000? Does everybody agree with that? And they should, because that is the correct answer. You bet. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so is this, a $50 gift card to the Lucky's 13 Pub. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies, for playing. One more time, kids, give them a cheer. Go Bison. Back to the studio.
All right, thank you, Mike. That money was good, but I think the win was better over K-State.
Yes.
Much more to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Bubble screen.
Pop up the
Bubble screen.
Pro screen.
Completion percentage.
Pepper the screen. Pepper the screen. Pop screen. No.
End around.
Hang around.
End around.
Hang around.
Scrambling.
Swim.
No. Scrambling.
Swing.
Scrambling.
Swim looking. That's it. What?
Fair catch.
Barry? Oh my. Did I get one right? What? Bro, I saw his mouth.
Okay.
That was by far the funniest.
They're football.
Jabril, pop up the screen.
Swimming.
So Jabril didn't quite understand that they were football terms before he did that. And I don't want to make fun of Jabril, but everybody that was around there, we had everybody.
We got in
dying
trouble
laughing.
for being too loud.
We were too loud at Media Day when we recorded those.
Don't worry, we gave Jabril another opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll see that later in the season. He does a little bit better.
Does a little bit better. As soon as he realizes that they're football terms and not swim licking, whatever that is, I could watch that all the time. We'll put that up on our social media pages as well, just so you guys can relive that.
Luckily, he's a lot better at football.
He's
which
very
he has
good
the
at football.
opportunity
Very,
to do.
very good at football. Not so great at the Whisper Challenge, at least on that go-around. Let's get into our Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine injury report. We go back to the Dome. Ryan Gellner standing by with Dr. Ben Noonan.
Thank you, guys. Ben Noonan joins us now, and we're going to talk about an injury that maybe isn't in the forefront when you talk about college football injuries, but it is something that happens quite a bit, and that is hip injuries, and in particular, hip dislocations. These things happen.
Yeah, they sure do. It's an uncommon but potentially devastating injury for a football athlete. And these injuries are usually a little different than the classic dislocation you might see in a patient in a car accident. In those, usually the hip goes out and stays out, and it's easy to make that diagnosis. And they can happen on the field as well, but usually the hip will be in an internally rotated position, the leg will be short, they'll be in a really high degree of pain. It's not a question what's going on. In a football athlete, more often they'll land with their knee bent and a bunch of players will land on top of them, and the hip will actually go out and come back in. So that's a little tougher to figure out what's going on. They have quite a bit of pain, but none of the telltale signs. And if it happens that a football player does have a hip that stays out, that's really a surgical emergency. We would transport them to the emergency room, get sedation, and it's really important to get that hip back in place because you can have damage to the blood supply of the hip. And that's not a relocation we would try on the field. You know, shoulders we can usually get back in, but a hip is so constrained and the muscle is so strong, you can probably do more damage than good trying to get that back in on the field. But if the hip goes out and comes back in, it's very important to recognize that because you're still worried about injury to the blood supply, to the ball or the femoral head. So regardless of how the athlete does, at 6 weeks and 3 months, we would get an MRI to watch for that. But if you've recognized it, we would get x-rays, we would get an MRI, kind of assess how much damage there is, and then put that athlete on crutches and do a slow, gradual return to play. and about half of athletes can actually make it back without any kind of surgery.
That's the Bo Jackson injury that ended his career, was the hip dislocation. Generally, and I'm sure every case is different, but generally, how long, if it dislocates, come back in during play on field, how long until that athlete can be back to 100%?
It is quite variable. If you fall into that half that make it back, we wouldn't even let you start doing athletic maneuvers for probably 4 to 6 weeks, and then it's really kind of on a case-by-case basis. You might make it back in 2 or 3 months, but then there is that other half that just can't make it, and why that is variable. There could be injury to the labrum, which is the ring of spongy cartilage around the hip. You could have loose bodies of cartilage in the hip, but ultimately in those athletes, you make the decision together as a team that, hey, we may need to operate on this hip. And there is an entity we treat, which is common in football players, called hip impingement, which is where they have a lot of extra bone on the front of their hip. And we think that's a risk factor because that extra bone hits on the socket and levers them out the back. So if you're going to treat them surgically, you address all of the damage from the dislocation, but also get rid of that extra bone to try to prevent it from happening.
It is a pain that I don't need, you don't need, and none of these players today need as well. Thanks so much. It's a very interesting and fascinating injury, but certainly one that we don't want to see. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Guys, back to you.
All right, thank you very much to Ryan and to Dr. Ben Noonan. Let's take a look at the injury report for today. Caleb Butler, the defensive end for the Bison, he is questionable with a thigh injury. Eric Bachmeyer, the wideout, is out with a hand injury, and Aaron Mercadal at linebacker is out as well with a knee injury. Let's take a look at the quarterbacks that we're going to be seeing today for this one. And Easton Stick, look at those numbers, will ya? 9 whole pass attempts against Cal Poly. He didn't need to throw the football last week. The Bison ran for 1 billion yards against Cal Poly. But Easton, this is a game that Easton could probably get going through the air a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you for that.
I'm expecting another big day from the running backs.
Yeah, when you've got the bevy of backs that the Bison have, yeah, you don't really need your 4th year or 5th year quarterback to do too much. Let's take a look at the opposition, if you will. Christian Lopez, we said he's a junior college transfer. You heard from the voice of the Lions there that he didn't really get to North Alabama until until the summertime. So he's still trying to play catch up with this Lions system.
Man, for just getting there in July, he's got a heck of a rapport with those young receivers who are trying to get acclimated to the system and everything. They're looking really good, all things considered. And it's kind of cruel how I'm saying it, actually.
Right, and what I think is important is the 5 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Even though he is taking some risks, the completion percentage is up. There I go, harping on completion percentage again.
You promised.
That was just for Easton. I'm gonna harp on the other team.
Everyone else. Well, and I think the part that really makes him so dangerous is when he does get outside of that pocket. That really jumped off the screen when you looked at them play, and he didn't have as much of that against Alabama A&M, but he certainly exposed Southern Utah in that way.
Yeah, he had 105 yards against Southern Utah. He was -10, but he still had a rushing touchdown against Alabama A&M. It took some bad sacks. Some bad sacks, but the kid can still move, and as he goes, so does North Alabama's offense. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to go out to the Dome and join our trio out there, Brian Shawn, Lee Timmerman, and Ryan Gellner. That's next here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Hi, and welcome back inside the Fargo Dome, where kickoff is about 33 minutes away between North Alabama and North Dakota State. Brian Shawn will call today's game. Lee Timmerman will provide the color analyst. My name is Ryan Gellner, and guys, we are getting ready for a football game that, at least on paper, looks like a mismatch. But Brian, North Alabama comes in. They get a couple of nice wins, including a game they should not have won, but they end up winners. They come in 2-0.
Yeah, and I think the way they started the game with Southern Utah, with some of their speed on the outside, I think the confidence started to grow when they went in there and showed they could compete with the defending Big Sky champion. And then all of a sudden you get in the 4th quarter, you get into crunch time, and some of your young redshirt freshman receivers make some plays. I think the confidence continued to grow. They brought it into next week where they played Alabama A&M. They have a long history with them, got another 4th quarter comeback victory. So it's a team that in some ways is battle tested, but this is going to be a totally different ball game from what they saw the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think so as well, Lee, and let's talk about that. The Fargo Dome alone can be a pretty intimidating factor to a team that doesn't play in the Dome. And then a team like North Dakota State, when you're going through that transition year, that's a whole nother factor.
It certainly is. Just the fact that they're inside, like you mentioned, only the fourth time that this is a team that's played inside. But the noise, if the crowd brings the noise, there'll be some things, especially offensively, that North Alabama will have to deal with. What will be their snap key? That'll be one of the biggest things. And if the Bison can identify what that snap key is, then NDSU has an advantage because they can run a whole bunch of things defensively off of that if they can pick it up.
Let's get into our Dakota Magic and Casino keys of the game for today's football game. And our first key in this football game is simply to get lined up for North Dakota State. You've heard that before, but North Alabama, they like to go fast at times, and they would like, after a big play, to throw North Dakota State off, Brian.
Yeah, they would, and a lot of that stuff runs through their quarterback, and he's really the cog to this whole thing with Christian Lopez, a guy that did not even join the program until July. And all of a sudden he's named a captain, which I think says a lot about him and his personality and his leadership skills that he brought to that position. But what makes him so dangerous is getting outside of the pocket. That's when he's been his most dangerous. He took a little bit of a nick against Alabama A&M last week, missed some time, came back, wasn't really the same guy. We'll see how close to 100% he is.
Our second key on our Dakota Magic Casino keys of the game, Lee, is pre-snap. And by pre-snap, I mean North Dakota State now, they play a game, they go to the off week, so in a way, it's getting back to basics and the things that don't really come naturally. Now, the Bison only had 2 penalties a couple weeks ago in their first game, but really is back to business for NDSU and working on some things that you really can't get game ready for.
They tried in practice some things like a lot of 7-on-7, number 1 receivers against number 1 defensive backs. That's one thing that NDSU did a lot of the last couple of weeks to try to get that passing game up to game speed, but you can't do that until you play a game. That's why I think the Bison passing game will be something today that we'll want to watch a little bit more. What's the timing of that? These guys haven't had to pass block at all yet this year, and that takes a unit up front to be able to do that. So we'll see how Coach Kleiman's offense, led by Easton Stick, is able to find some rhythm through the air maybe today.
Our third and final Dakota Magic key to the game is protect the comeback. And you already mentioned that, Brian, but North Alabama 2-0. They trailed in the fourth quarter of both games. North Dakota State has to protect somewhat. You get a lead, you got to stick with that lead.
Well, and the one thing that North Dakota State did in the opener against Cal Poly was just completely take them out of the game right away in the first quarter, and the football game was essentially on ice at that point. And I think with the North Alabama team, as good as they've been in the fourth quarter, they have not seen an offensive or defensive line like they're going to see today. And I think in addition to that, as good as they were on the outside with some of their receivers against Southern Utah and Alabama A&M, North Dakota State, I still think, is underrated in a lot of ways, especially with their team speed in the back four. Their safeties and corners can still run, are still very, very physical. So it'll be interesting to see how those redshirt freshman receivers react to that today against an experienced group.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting on the flip side to see how North Alabama reacts to North Dakota State. This North Alabama football team, Lee, we don't know a heck of a lot about them, but we know it starts and ends with the quarterback, who was banged up a little bit a week ago. But North Dakota State really would like to keep him in the pocket today.
Yeah, if Lopez is able to move around like he was before the injury the first 2 weeks, then he provides a really difficult target. If he can't, and he has to stay in a 5-step drop, that man is in big trouble. They'll come after him. That's why I don't think Lopez is going to last the whole game, and that's not necessarily because the Bison are going to beat him up. But Coach Willis has also said we have to be really smart with what we do with this kid today, because we have more games to play other than today. He is no doubt their number 1 quarterback. He's the number 1 weapon they have on offense, but yet they don't want to do anything to harm him for the rest of the year, which the Bison have a tendency to do to quarterbacks who aren't moving very, very well.
So far, 1 game, 1 quarterback hurt. And it's unfortunate, but it has happened, especially when North Dakota State can stay as fresh as they do defensively. On the flip side, Brian, it's just as important that North Dakota State University stays healthy through this football game, because the conference season is coming, and what could be a pretty good matchup is a week away, but the Bison need to stay healthy as well.
And I think that was what Chris Kleiman addressed coming back from the off week, is we know now we have to play 10 straight weeks. And even talking to the players, they're like, we know there are some guys that along the way are going to get nicked up. That's why it's so important for the guys behind them to be ready to step in and play at whatever position it is. At some point, NDSU is going to sustain something major. It's just a matter of time and what position group it's going to be. You just hope if you're NDSU, you can get through this non-conference season as healthy as possible, because I know they're not looking ahead. We certainly can. At the end of the month, we know when they open Missouri Valley Conference play here against South Dakota State, the roof might blow off this place.
And today it's about figuring out, for a sense, the backup to the backup. We'll see how many guys North Dakota State can get into the football game. These non-conference games, they count, but do they really? Well, in the playoff world, they certainly do. So North Dakota State, 1, wants to win the game, 2, wants to stay healthy, and 3, wants to see how many backups they can get in to see what they have behind the traditional backup. Kickoff about 27 minutes away from the Fargo Dome. We'll return to the Fargo Dome with the head coach, Chris Kleiman, when we come back. Getting closer to kickoff as North Dakota State and North Alabama do battle live back in the Fargo Dome. My name is Ryan Gellner, and this place starting to fill up. Some questions on available tickets earlier this week, but it looks like North Dakota State is set for a sellout, or very, very close to a sellout. The crowd's starting to assemble very nicely inside the Fargo Dome on a Saturday afternoon here in Fargo. Time now for Herdline News, an inside look at North Dakota State football. North Dakota State had 2 players earn Missouri Valley Football Conference honors after the Bison Week 1 win over Cal Poly. Running back Bruce Anderson earned his first Offensive Player of the Week award after rushing 11 times for a career-high 185 yards and 2 touchdowns for number 8. Center Tanner Volson earned his 3rd career Offensive Lineman of the Week honors. He had 4 knockdowns and a team best 89% technique grade. And we've already talked about this, but another big honor for quarterback Easton Stick. The Allstate Insurance Company and the American Football Coaches Association announced that Stick was one of 22 college football players selected nationwide for the 2018 Allstate AFA Good Works team. The award credits Easton for off-the-field things that he does, and the list, folks, is really impressive. Stick works with NDSU Student Advisory Panel, but away from that, he works with the North Dakota Special Olympics, with Make-A-Wish, with Schools Alive, with Feed My Starving Children, and with YMCA of Cass and Clay counties. In addition, Easton spends a lot of his time away from football, visiting local hospitals. He reads at elementary schools, and he speaks to church communities and to youth groups. Easton Stick being recognized as one of 22 players across college football with the 2018 All-State AFA Good Works team. Congratulations to Easton Stick, who not only is a leader on this football team, but he is a leader in the community and across the state. I had a chance to talk to Chris Kleiman, and I asked him first off about Easton Stick. Chris, more awards for Easton Stick. Maybe this week one of the most impressive. It's not just on the field, it's off the field with him.
Yeah, the All-State Good Works team, he was selected on that. There's one of 22 individuals, and all the things you do in the community, and he wants to give back to this great community that has given him so much, given our football program and our athletic department so much. So it was a great honor that I know he was surprised about, but happy he was able to get it.
It's a guy that not only leads on the field, we have seen that, but off the field, the thing he does and the time that he commits away from football really is impressive.
Yeah, he's a servant leader. He makes everybody around him better. He wants to continue to help people. It's something that it's been passionate for him for not just a year, but since he arrived on campus 4+ years ago, that he wants to give back. And I'm excited because a lot of the guys that are on our team have taken his lead and have done the same. And we have so many guys out in our great community, and that's what we want to continue to do.
North Alabama is the team that comes to the Fargo Dome today. 2-0 in their transition year. On paper, maybe it looked like, yeah, but when you start 2-0, winning some games that people said they shouldn't have, they won those games. They come here confident.
Yeah, they have tremendous confidence. I really like their quarterback. I like their offensive system as far as spread and getting the ball around to their playmakers. Then defensively, they're going to pressure us. They're going to be in man coverage. We have to do a great job of controlling the line of scrimmage. And if we do that, we're able to maybe get some big plays. That's what we have to do, because if they get us behind the chains and we end up second and long or third and long, they're going to bring everybody.
Their quarterback likes to move those chains with his feet. It's a guy that I assume you've worked on all week, trying to keep him inside the pocket.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. He had a knee that was tweaked the week before, but it sounds like he's going to be ready to go. And you're right, he wants to run the football. So I hope he can't do that as well, but we have to do a great job of corralling him, because I think that's where he's most dangerous, is getting out of the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield, not just wanting to run it, but keeping his eyes downfield and throwing the football.
Chris, good luck again this week.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
20 minutes from kickoff here at the Fargo Dome. When we come back, we go back to our Fargo studios. The game around the corner. Another beautiful day in North Dakota.
All right, welcome back to the tailgate section. I want to introduce somebody right before we play the game a little bit. What's your name?
Noah.
And Noah, where are you from?
Washburn.
Washburn, North Dakota. That's Cardinal country, right?
Yes.
And what makes this game special for you?
Because it's my first game.
Wow, first game. I got a feeling the crowd will be cheering for you at one point in the game. So when you hear a roar, just think about it being for you, okay?
Yeah.
All right, enjoy the game. All right, for some excitement now, we go to some trivia. And my first contestant is?
Lynn Spurl.
Lynn? Nobody's gotten this wrong yet since we started this game. No pressure, okay? In 2020, the NDSU Bison football team will play an FBS team from the West Coast. Is it Oregon or USC?
Oregon.
It is Oregon. Congratulations. You win a $50 gift card to Lucky's 13.
Awesome. Thank
you
you very much.
That was easy.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, and your name, sir?
Brad Steffen.
Brad, you saw that our streak continues, right?
Correct.
All right, so don't blow it. Since it's September 15th, Holden Hotchkiss wears number 15 for the Bison. What position does he play? Quarterback or wide receiver?
Quarterback.
Is that correct, supporting crowd? That is correct. Holden wears number 15. Congratulations. You win a $50 gift card to the True Blue Social Club.
Outstanding. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for playing. And will you just do a go Bison for us?
Go Bison.
All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game. Back to you.
On Thursday, Bison quarterback Easton Stick was named as one of 22 college football players nationwide to the All-State AFCA Good Works team. Stick was picked as one of 11 non-FBS members of the team, honored for his work in the Fargo-Moorhead community, especially for his outreach with children in the area.
This community has been really special to me and has embraced me and my family so well. And I think it's important to give back to people that give to you. And so, I've been able to do that. Guys in our locker room continue to do that all the time, and it's something that the coach preaches all the time, and guys take it to heart and understand that we're really fortunate to be in the situation that we are.
I'm so honored to have him be a part of our football team, because he embodies what NDSU football and NDSU athletics is all about, is not only what you do on the field, what you do in the classroom, but as well as giving back. And I want all of our student athletes to have that well-rounded experience when you come to college. If you're just a student athlete and that's all you are, then you're not really doing enough. And so for us to give back to the community is something that we preach all the time, and our kids really enjoy doing it.
You might not be going through some of the same things that they are, but you were in their shoes and looked up to athletes and different people like that, and so you recognize that's special. And it wasn't too long ago that I remember being a huge fan of players and looking up to them and wanting to be in their shoes, and so that's special. And I've just learned that this community is different, and people care, and they've given so much to me and our team that it's fun going out and serving other people. And you never have a bad experience doing that stuff, and I think you get out of it more than you can ever give to someone else, and so I think I've grown a ton because of it.
Stick, along with the rest of the Good Works team, will be honored during the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, January 1st. Fans are encouraged to visit espn.com/allstate to vote for the 2018 All-State AFCA Good Works Team captain, who will be honored at the Home Depot College Football Awards on ESPN. Make sure you go vote. espn.com/allstate to get Easton some recognition, some much-deserved recognition. We were both out there Thursday at Coley's cabin at the Sanford Hospital, and what an awesome, awesome surprise.
Well, so much fun because it was a surprise for him. So
Yes.
that was what was really cool to see. It was him caught off guard, him unprepared, and yet again, he is still eloquent and well-spoken
Yes.
and so kind and humble in that moment in the spotlight. But a really, really great honor for him. Great for NDSU to make sure and get his name out there as well, because he's a great young man leading this team with so many of his teammates right there alongside of him as well. That's important to say.
Chris Kleiman was there, and obviously he was in on the whole thing, but it was very funny to hear, how they were able to keep this secret. They said, Chris said he called Easton's parents, and he just called his dad because Easton's mom probably would have spilled the beans, I think, to Easton. So they were like, well, don't tell
Shelly.
Don't tell Shelly. We're just going to keep
Shelly.
this. Yeah, poor
Shelly.
But,
Yeah,
but we were able to give Shelly some photos and
Yes.
see some of that.
Well, and a really cool moment for them, just to see everything that he does. Also often we want to tell those stories. Everybody said it's great to finally hear about some of this stuff. We would kill to be able to tell these stories and to share all of the outreach programs they do, but it's the humility of the team is why we can't.
Right.
They don't tell us. When I ask, they go, oh, I'm not really sure, because they're not doing it for the spotlight.
No.
They're not doing it for the recognition, and that makes it that much more special.
And you heard Chris Kleiman say there that he wants his kids to be able to go and do something and have that college experience and give back to the community that gives so much to them. 19,000 people go to that Fargo Dome every Saturday when the Bison are playing there, and these kids recognize what the community is sacrificing to go and watch them play football, that it's important for them to go and give back.
Absolutely.
All right, let's turn our attention back to today's game. The Bobcat heavy lifting report as the Bison get set to take on North Alabama in about 7.5 minutes on our Coors Light countdown clock. We see that we have picked the linebackers today. We've been talking about it all game long. It's this Christian Lopez kid that the Lions have at quarterback. And the linebackers are going to be somebody that they need to keep this guy contained.
Well, you heard it from our guys out at the Fargo Dome. As Lopez goes, the Lions go.
Yeah.
And so it's really going to be important for these guys to contain him and keep him locked in there in his pocket. Stay in your home, if you will.
Stay in your home. Of course, we're talking about Dan Marlette, as you see there. There's Jabril Cox. He is one of the other guys. Levi Jortheim as well in that linebacking core. The other point that we made was to limit this Lion offense. This Lion offense, they're very opportunistic. They will take chances down the field, and if you're not fundamentally sound, you're going to get burned by them. Thank you for adding on to that. I really appreciate that. We're going to step aside as we come back. We'll
Sometimes,
put the,
Alex, you just say things so well. I'm
going to take that as a compliment.
That is
I'm
a
taking
compliment.
it as a compliment.
I mean that.
Okay. We're going to step
Mark
aside.
this date in history.
When we come back, we'll put our final touches on this show. 6 minutes and 20 seconds till we send you out to the Fargo Dome on our Coors Light countdown clock. The Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show rolls on.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
3 minutes and 30 seconds on the Coors Light countdown clock before we send you out to the Fargo Dome for the Bison and North Alabama. That's
Back to football.
Back to football, that's for sure. It felt like that off week was just...
That was hard. That was really, really hard to get through.
I don't think it was too difficult on the guys, but it was pretty difficult on us because you gear up for football season and then we're going to take a break.
We pumped the brakes really quick. So, yeah,
It's not pump. That's a slam on the brakes right there. But we've got the keys back in the ignition. We're moving on full speed.
And past these car metaphors.
That's enough. That's enough car metaphors. Let's go back out to the guys, get their final thoughts before we send it out to them for the game.
Yeah, guys, for me, final thoughts are how North Alabama handles this. The lights, the big stage. Of course, they know football in Alabama, but North Alabama hasn't played in a dome, as you know, as we've talked about. And how their first couple possessions go, how they react not only to playing NDSU, but playing in front of this crowd and this large atmosphere.
All right, I think my final thoughts are how the North Dakota State defensive backs do against this really talented young group of receivers from North Alabama, a bunch of redshirt freshmen, but they've proven very capable of making some tough plays in crunch time.
But my final thoughts goes to the heart of football, and that's right at the line. The Bison offensive line, is better than the North Alabama defensive line, but the Bison defensive line has a huge advantage, I think, over the UNA offensive line. That's where the game is usually won. The Bison have both of those on their side. They should win easy today.
All right, thank you very much, guys, as we'll get back out to them. And in just over a minute and 50 seconds on our Coors Light countdown clock, you heard the guys mention a little bit about how, especially LT there, that this will be an easy win for the Bison. All week, I've been kind of going back and forth. You know, you've got a North Alabama team that comes in with a lot of confidence. They're 2-0. They have a very big statement win, I say, to open up their FCS run. And then you look at the Bison, and it's just, well, the Bison are the Bison. And you can't take that away from the Bison.
At the end of the day,
yeah, when it comes down to it, it's still NDSU playing a team that's in transition.
It is the FCS football team.
Yeah.
When people talk about FCS football, a lot of times when you're talking to somebody who only knows FBS, the only one they know is NDSU.
So I have been going back and forth. I think it's going to be a comfortable win for North Dakota State. I don't think this game will ever be in doubt as it goes along, but I think North Alabama does give the Bison a good test, and that's something that the Bison need, because I know they're not looking ahead, but as you heard Brian Shawn say, we are allowed to look ahead, and Delaware comes to the Dome next week, and that's a good team. So the Bison need to get some of these things worked
Shake
out.
that rust off again.
And get
those jitters out of the way again, because they're back in kind of that first game of this season mode again.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned right at the start of the show is how good the Bison are. After an open week, it is 27 straight wins for the Bison after an open week. I think today is 28.
I think we've got 28.
I think 28's definitely in the cards.
Yes.
Also, another thing to look out for, Greg Menard, back on the football field, 5th in career sacks. He's got 29 of them. I think he might get some more.
He's coming for you, Kyle Emanuel.
I know.
He's coming for you. Yeah, I'm predicting Bison shutout.
Bison shutout.
Bison shutout.
You heard it here first. That's it for the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Now we send you out to the Fargo Dome for North Dakota State and North Alabama.